I know everybody was waiting for me to talk about this topic, and I will. AfD leader Alice Weidel considers Brexit to be a model for Germany, it was said, and in Great Britain, on the other hand, many people regret leaving the EU. But if the AfD could do as it wanted, it would definitely reform the EU to remedy its democratic deficit, as they put it. And the AfD's plan is, Germany should leave the EU if that doesn't happen. Well, and Weidel is making a U-turn with this because last summer she said in an interview with the German television that doesn't correspond to their program. And the broadcaster had asked her about the AfD party conference in Magdeburg and pointed out that individual party members had called for Germany to leave the EU. And Weidel replied that the AfD was striving for Europe of interests and economic community. At that time, the participants decided that the point orderly dissolution of the EU should be deleted from the party program. The AfD backtracked on its demand for EU dissolution. And the party's European election program talks about refounding the EU. If that fails, then it would be time for a Dexit. That was said by party leader Alice Weidel in the British Financial Times. It's a model for Germany that you can make sovereign decisions like this. And Weidel thinks Brexit was damn right. Well, as the anniversary of Brexit approaches at the end of January in Great Britain, the British press traditionally tries to take stock. It is difficult to grasp how the country feels about its independence after the bitter fight to leave, as it is still divided over this sensitive issue, which also annoys everyone and is therefore almost a political taboo. It's best not to mention it in the coming election campaign, as we kind of see. The consequences of leaving the EU are present in everyday life everywhere. The shortage of skilled workers is further fueled because work visas are expensive. Customs regulations plague companies with a lot of new bureaucracy. And the government is trying laboriously to negotiate new trade agreements with other partners beyond Europe. But after almost 4 years after leaving the EU, hardcore Brexiteers stand by their decision if you ask them directly. But many others doubt and are quite dissatisfied. The word regret is doing the rounds, Brexit regret, but Brexit just won't go away. A study recently tried to find out during the autumn party conference season why it is so difficult to pin down the British on Brexit and their attitude towards it. Exploring regret, public attitudes to Brexit 7 years on is the name of the study by the think tank UK in a Changing Europe. And this shows that only 1 in 5 people who voted to leave things have been going well in the United Kingdom since then. The others feel uncomfortable. And most people cite the weakening economy as the reason, regardless of whether they were for or against the exit. And they associate Brexit with what's going wrong in their everyday lives, such as rising costs of living, a shortage of skilled workers in the medical field. But they admit that the corona pandemic may also have contributed to this. Most people are indeed pessimistic about the long-term impact of Brexit. Less than a third of voters believe things are changing for the better. At the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean that they regret voting for Brexit. In fact, a majority even say that they would vote again like they did in 2016. Now they have a better idea of what they are doing. And someone really should understand this. I mean, here outside of Great Britain. Brexit opponents and supporters now largely agree that the narrow yes to the exit was based on false assumptions. Too complex, too poorly explained, many arguments simply made up by those who campaigned for Brexit. And the slogans about free trade without EU regulations were far too simple because countries cannot exist completely independently on a world market like what we have. And trade agreements do not simply replace the European internal market that was left, and that is clear 4 years later. Above all, it makes life harder and more expensive for companies trying to compete in both markets. Smaller companies suffer the most. The torment of bureaucracy will affect other sectors in just over a week. from January 31st. Anyone who imports flowers or vegetables is faced with different risk classes that must be declared upon import. Wholesalers at New Covent Garden Market in London are expecting delays in fresh produce even. If a truck with differently classified goods is stopped, more perishable goods could also be affected. And the chefs in London's top restaurants don't take it as a joke. The dealers say that scaring away customers is the worst thing. And if you ask them whether they have seen any advantages for themselves since Brexit, the answer for many is a clear no. In reality, breaking free from the shackles of the EU means increasing separation for many areas. Student exchanges are shrinking noticeably, as are corresponding university programs. And those who have gained experience in Brussels are also gradually disappearing from political parties. De-Europeanization is noticed by politicians who, for example, visit sister parties again after a long time in London. It's a bit like Europe is disappearing over the horizon. But whose freedom increased? Those from British politicians, it seems, without any EU requirements. Only around 600 laws were eliminated because they were passed under EU conditions, not the thousands as was once claimed. But even these are bringing the administrations of the ministries to the brink of being overwhelmed. And you know there will be general elections in Britain, and there will be a change in power. But Brexit will still not be a matter in those elections, and because everybody is scared of this topic, even the people that should know better. There is a lot going on there. But I have to come back to Alice Weidel. Of course, you will want to know this, and I know that a lot of Brexiteers jumped on this, also here on YouTube. Federal Economics Minister Robert Habeck reacted with sharp criticism to AfD leader Alice Weidel's thoughts on Germany leaving the EU, the Dexit. But without naming Weidel directly, Habeck said on Tuesday at the Handelsblatt Energy Summit, "You can't think of politics more stupidly than saying that Germany should say goodbye to the EU, to say goodbye to the internal market. The market must be open, just as the markets as a whole should be open," emphasized the Green politician. That's the recipe for success of the German economy. And you know that I don't often agree with Habeck on a lot of things, but here I agree with him. Because Brexit is not a model for Germany. Germany would be damaged by far. And even the Social Democrats' top candidate for the European elections, Katharina Barley, accused Weidel of not understanding anything. Putin, Xi and Trump want nothing more than a Dexit. That's what she wrote on X. And Brexit costs already 140 billion for the UK annually. And it would be madness for Germany to do that. Germany is benefiting from the EU in a sense that most people will not even consider, even if they only look at what we pay into the EU budget every year, but what we gain by being a member. Not by, I don't mean money we get back from the EU, like for farmers or whatever. I mean overall, with the business and everything, and the exports, and so on. But this is just one example why this party is completely separated from reality. I mean, at the moment we have big demonstrations against this party and their fascist politics that we are seeing coming up over and over again, and leaving the EU, as they had to take it from their party program, and now their leader is coming up with that nonsense. I usually try not to talk about these people because it just gives them attention they don't deserve. But in this case, with all the Brexiteers bringing that up, they will never be in a position where they can decide on that. That is the most important part here. And I can only say, fortunately, they might end up being the strongest party in some East German states. But there is a lot surrounding the history of Eastern Germany, and the population is not as big as in Western Germany, by the way, and so on. But there are a lot of different issues why this might happen. But it will never mean that they will be in charge. And even if they get the 20% they have at the moment in the polls in a new general election, they will never be part of any government. So, of course, they can put everything in their program, but it's not even in their program that they want to leave the EU. But they can say what they want. They never have to prove that they would do that. And so for all the celebrating Brexiteers, just forget it. And if you want to know more, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.